All right, this is week 4, Math 208, week 4, section 4.4, shading the solution set of a system of inequalities. So I'm going to veer a little bit differently than the way MyMathLab has been teaching you how to decide how to shade. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the Dwayne method, which is kind of quick and easy. So you've got your two inequalities, and they've been graphed for us, so we don't have to worry about it, okay? They've been graphed, and so you need to know that the red one is x is less than or equal to 2, and you need to know that the blue one is the x plus y is greater than or equal to 6, all right? Now what we're going to do is we are going to shade. So these inequalities means you have to shade either to above or below, or to the left or to the right, for each of these lines. So let's focus on x is less than or equal to 2. So which values of x is less than or equal to 2? The ones to the left or the ones to the right? Well, the answer is the ones to the left. So that means we're going to shade this left side. And so that left side, oh, I want to do it in red to keep it consistent. So we're going to shade that left side. All right. So now, let's take a look at the blue line. Now it says our equation has to be greater than or equal to 6. So I want you to focus on the word greater than. Does greater than suggest above, or does greater than suggest below? And the idea is, I hope you think that greater suggests above. And so since greater suggests above, that means we are going to shade above the blue line. And now what you're going to see is we've got 4, think of it like V's. Regional areas in the shape of a V. For example, right here, so our two lines, and I'm going to kind of, here was the red one. In fact, let me make it a little bit thicker here. Here was the red one, and here was the blue one. All right, and so I hope you can see we have 4 V's, here, 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 and here, these kind of V's, part of the X, right? This little shaded area has V, this little V has no shade. This section of the V has only blue. This section, V kind of section, has only red. But it's this section here that has both blue and red. So this section right here is our answer. So that is the only section that really is all we need. This section right here is our answer, all right? And now I'm going to zoom out, and you're going to be able to see that, oh, stinker, stinker, stinker. My little answer options are covered. Let's see what I can do. No, I can't even do that. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose the option that has just this little V shaded in. The red here and the blue will not show up on your options. It'll be just this little shaded area. All right, so again, we've got these two inequalities. You need to know that the x plus y is less than or equal to 7 is the blue. And then you need to know that y is less than or equal to 2x is the red. All right, so the first one is the blue, second one is the red. And then what we're going to do is we're going to shade it. Now, what I want you to think about is, let's do the blue one first. All right, so that's the x plus y is less than or equal to 7. By the way, because they're or equals, they're solid lines as opposed to dashed lines. Now, you've got this blue line, and you have above the blue line, and you have below the blue line. When it says x plus y is less than or equal to 7, less than, the word less than, does that suggest above the blue or below the blue? And I hope you think that it suggests below the blue. So that is this area right here. All right, so I'm going to kind of shade that in the best I can. So that's below because it said x plus y is less than 7. So it's going to be below the line that we are going to shade in. And let's get a little bit, oopsies, let's get a little bit better at shading. Good. All right, so there we go. So there is my shade. All right, so now let's do this second one, which is dealing with the red line. All right, and it says y is less than or equal to 2x. So when you look at this line, it's kind of weird, but this is above and this is below. So if it says y is less than 2x, does that say we're going to shade above or below? And I hope you can connect the word less than with below. So we are going to shade below, and we're going to do that in red. And I'm going to shade that in red. All right. And so let's zoom in a little bit and make the line a little bit darker. So we had those two lines. We had the blue one right here. And then we had the red one right here. And I want you to see that we've created 4 regions. This little region hasn't been shaded in at all. This region has been shaded in blue. This region has been shaded in only red, but it was this region here that has been shaded in twice with the blue and the red. So that makes this our answer because it was shaded in twice. So you're going to choose the graph that's been covered up so you can't see it because that's the only one that's showing up here. But you're going to choose the graph that has just this lower region shaded in. More of the same, only this time we have to do the graphing. Oh, my goodness. Deadly. So, no problem. So, first we're going to graph x is less than or equal to 6. So I want you to treat it like x is equal to 6. So when we graph x is equal to 6, that's going to look like this. Because this is your x-axis, so x is equal to 6 is right here. Here's all the values where x is equal to 6. All right, now it says we need, well, I'm going to leave that. And let's do the next one. So now we're going to do y is greater than or equal, no, greater than negative 2. So where is y equals? We're going to pretend this as equals. So where is y equals negative 2? That's down here. And let's do that in red. And so that's this line right there. All right, so now we've created our 4 regions, but we don't know really which answer is the correct region. Which one of these 4 regions is the answer? So let's do our using logic, and this was blue, so we're going to shade in blue. Everything less than 6. So shading in everything less than 6 means we're going to shade in all this side. So that's shading in everything less than 6. Everything less than x is equal to 6. All right. And then, now we're going to do everything greater than y being negative 2. So you've got your y is equals to negative 2. Which side is greater than negative 2, above or below? And, well, hopefully you'll see that it's above. So we want to shade in everything above. And hopefully what you will see is 4 sections. You've got, oops, I don't want that, there. You've got the 2 lines that were created, and then we've created 4 regions. This region hasn't been shaded at all. This region is red, this region is blue, and it's this region, the upper left corner, that has been shaded in twice. So that is the correct solution. So you want to choose the graph that has only this upper left-hand side shaded in. And that wraps up that problem. Now, because I think you're going to be using the graphing tool to create this, I'm not entirely sure how MyMathLab has you shade in a particular side, but there you go. All right, another example where we are being asked to graph these two and decide how to shade it in. So we're going to begin by graphing x is less than or equal to 1, and you're going to first pretend that it is just x is equal to 1. So x is equal to 1 is going to be right here. There's your x is equal to 1. And then we want to do y is less than 5x. So we want y, we're going to pretend its y is equal to 5x. So what is that going to look like? Well, your x-intercept, your y-intercept is going to start at 0. And then it's going to go up 5 over 1, up 5 over 1. And your line itself, and I'm going to zoom in here, your line itself is going to look like this right here, but because it's just a less than, not a less than or equal, that means really this line needs to be dashed. So we need to make it a dashed line. So I'm going to go dash, 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 dash. Okay, so now that it's a dashed line, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so now you see 4 regions. We have this region, this region, this region, and this region. So we have 2 really skinny regions, and we have to decide how are we going to shade this in. So what we're going to do is we're going to look, first off, let's look at this y is less than or equal to 1. And less than means we are going to shade in to the left of that blue line. Because it's less than or equal. And then this one, y is less than or equal to 5x, means we're going to shade below the y line instead of above, because it's less than. So now we're going to shade below. And so let's do that. And we're going to shade below that red line. And the answer is very, very subtle. You will see that we've got 4 regions. This big region here is blue. This little skinny thing has not been shaded at all. This big region over here is red, and it's just this tiny sliver right here that has been shaded in twice, and so that's your answer right there. Again, we have 2 lines, and first thing we have to do is we have to graph, all right? And so when we graph, we're going to see y is less than or equal to x. So what is that line going to look like? Well, that line is going to look like, it's going to have a y-intercept of 0. Oh, let's do it in blue. It's going to have a y-intercept of 0, and then the slope is going to be up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. All right, so I'm going to zoom in, and it's going to be up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and it's going to look like this. And that's what that guy is going to look like. And let's keep it going there. And let's go this way. All right, so that's that first line. And then the second line is negative 9x. Oh my goodness. So what is that going to look like? So it means it's going to have a y-intercept of 0. But then the slope is going to be down 9 over 1. So it's going to be down 9 over 1. And then I can do backtracking, and it would go up here. So this line is going to look like, now, because it's a greater than symbol, not a greater than or equal, that means it's going to be dashed. So I'm just going to do dash, 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 dash. All right, so there's your line. So I've got a solid line because it was or equal. I've got a dashed line because it was simply greater than. And now I have my four regions, and I have to decide which region to shade. So that first line, which was the blue one, y is less than x. So that means it's all this stuff down here. And then the next one says y is greater than negative 9x. So that's going to be right here, all this. And you can see our four regions. This region hasn't been shaded at all. This is blue, this is red, and it's this section over here that has been shaded in twice. So that is what your graph is going to look like. All right, so we've got that answer, right? Now we did it manually. How would that look if we were to use Desmos? So the idea would be, all right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Desmos, and I'm going to take these equations, these inequalities, and I'm going to type them into Desmos. And so hopefully that's what's going to happen. And you'll notice, though, man, you just get a ton of color because that's all, it's color coded, right? And we're doing the second one, and you're just seeing all this color. And right now, it doesn't mean much. So what you're going to do is you're going to scroll out, you're going to move your grid around until you get a sense of what that graph is supposed to look like, right? And you'll notice you've got your four regions. You've got your left region here that has not been shaded at all. You've got your little purple region. You've got your little green region. So that's purple right there. That's the green region. And then you've got your big old gray. And that is your answer. All right? And so you're going to choose the graph that has the gray on the right. But one of the things you'll notice is look at the x and y axes. You'll notice the y-axis goes way up from 3 all the way down to like -2. And then you'll notice that your x-axis is like from -20 to 30, 10 times the size of the y-axis, all right? So that's no good. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this graph, this little wrench, and let's change the x-axis from -10 to +10. So you're just going to type in there -10, you're going to change that to +10. You have to delete all your junk. Okay, there you go. And then ignore the step. It doesn't really matter. And then we're going to change the y-axis from -10 to +10 and ignore the step. It doesn't really matter. And then when you click out, you get a nice, pretty graph that seems to make a little bit more sense, doesn't it? And that's really the goal here, is to let Desmos do the work. And of course you can see, hey, look at that, oops, that you have your four regions. And of course the right region is the area that has been shaded in twice. All right, so this one we are going to graph, and we're going to do it manually first, then I'll show you Desmos. And you're going to graph manually and then shade it in. But in order to graph this, we need to convert them both into y is equal to mx plus b. So I'm going to write down x plus y is less than or equal to 6. And then I'm going to write the other one down here, which is negative x plus y is less than or equal to 1. And because they're both include the or equal, that means all of my lines are going to be solid lines. Now let's do a little bit of math, and we want to get, let's start with this one here. We want to get the y all by itself, so that's going to end up giving us y is less than or equal to negative x plus 6. And then down here, we are going to get y all by itself, and we get y is less than or equal to x plus 1. So let's start with this guy up here. It means you're going to start at 6, And then you're going to go down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1. So let's zoom in. We're going to start, let's do it in blue. And we're going to start at 6, and then we're going to go down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1. And that is what our line is going to look like for the blue one. And it's solid line because it included the phrase or equal. So that's that first line. And then the second line says we're going to start at 1 and then go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. We'll do that in red. So we're going to start at 1. Then we're going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and there is our line. And let's draw that. So there's our line. And so now you see we've got our 4 regions, and we need to figure out which region to shade. All right, so we're going to use logic. Now, for the blue one, right here, this guy, it says y is less than our line. So when you're looking at your line, less than, is that above or below? Well, less than suggests below. So we're going to shade in below. That's all this area down here. Less than the blue line. And then over here, this says y is less than or equal to our red line. So are we going to shade above the red or below the red? Well, hopefully you get the idea that less than is below the red. So we're going to shade below the red. And you will notice you've got blue, you've got nothing, you've got red, and you've got both. And so that means this area, the both area, is our correct answer, and that is the part that you would enter in for MyMathLab. Now let's take a look at what that would look like if we were to use Desmos. So let's take a look at what that would look like if we were to use Desmos. So I'm going to kind of zoom in here, and let's watch. So what you'll notice is first thing we're going to do is we're going to type in the original equations or inequalities right here, not the ones that we modified to make it into y is equal to mx plus b, but we're just going to type in the original inequalities, and as we do it, it automatically shades in for us. It's so freaking cool. And so there's our answer, and we can see that this area down here has been shaded in twice. But we're going to look at our range, and you'll notice that it's not equal, and so let's make it equal. So we're going to click on that wrench, and we're going to change our x-axis from -10 to 10. Then we're going to change our y-axis from -10 to 10, ignoring the step because we don't really care. It doesn't really matter. And then when you click off of it, you can see there's our 4 regions, and this area is the region that is the answer. All right, so on this one, first thing we're going to do is we're going to begin by rewriting each of these inequalities over here. So we're going to do 4x plus y is greater than -8. And then down here, we're going to do x plus y is less than or equal to -4. So because this is up here just greater than, that means that one is going to be the dashed line. And because this one has equal, it's going to be the solid line. So we've got a dashed and a solid. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change these into y is equal to mx plus b format. So this becomes y is greater than -4x minus 8. And then down below, it becomes y is less than or equal to -x minus 4. So now if we're going to graph this, this says it starts at -8, And then it goes down 4 over 1, down 4 over 1. So it starts at -8 and then has a slope of -4. So let's do that in blue. And it says it starts at -8 and goes down 4 over 1. So I'm going to actually have to backtrack and make the graph that way. And that is what our line is going to look like. And remember, because it's just the greater than symbol, it means it's got to be dashed. So it's going to go dash, 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 and that's what our line is going to look like. And then this one over here starts at -4 and then goes down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So it's going to start at -4 and go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and it's going to look like this. And we can draw a solid line because it said or equal. So now you see our 4 regions, and we need to figure out, well, which region is our answer. So we're going to use logic. This says y is greater than the blue line. All right, so greater than is going to be to the right versus to the left. So it's going to be to the right. And so we are going to shade to the right because that is the greater than side. And then down here, this says y is less than this line. Y is less than the red line. So that means we're going to shade in below right here. And you will notice that we've got our 4 regions. We've got the part that hasn't been shaded at all, the part that's been shaded red, the part that's been shaded blue, and then the answer is this little wedge right here that has been shaded in twice. Now, if you want to see what that's going to look like, let's take a look at our graph here, and let's make it larger, and let's see. I'm going to start by typing in the equation, or actually the inequalities, and this one happens to be is greater than -8, and then the next one is going to be x plus y is less than or equal to -4, and then there you go, and there's your graph, and you can already see that right here is your region that is the overlap. So because you've got your 4 regions, this hasn't been shaded at all, this is only blue, this piece is only blue, this piece is only red, and it's this little wedge down here that's been shaded in twice. So that is your solution set, right? Now, if you want, you can rearrange your axes. This happens to be kind of nice because everything, your axes are already kind of even. You've got -10 to 10, you've got -10 to 10, so everything looks really nice. But if you needed to change your axes, you would do so over here. And you would change your axes by clicking on the -10 and changing it to something that you want. Click on the 10, change it to whatever you want. But this is really kind of a nice one. So that wraps up this using Desmos for this problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin by graphing those 2 inequalities. And the first thing you've got to do is you've got to get them into y is equal to mx plus b. So you've got x plus 2y is less than or equal to 4. And then down here you've got y is greater than -2. And so getting this into y is equal to mx plus b format, so that's going to be 2y is less than or equal to -x plus 4. And then we need to divide everything by 2. And so that gives us y is less than or equal to -1/2 x plus 2. Down here, we're already good. We already have that our inequality is y is greater than -2. So we're done here. So how does this one get graphed? Well, it starts at 2, And then the slope is down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. So let's do that, and we'll do it in blue. So it starts at 2, then it went down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. And that's what, and I can backtrack. And there is our line, and I couldn't remember if it was, and because it's an or equals, that means it's got to be a solid line, and it's going to be boom, like that. And that wasn't totally perfect of a line, but you get the idea. And then this one, you imagine this being y is equal to -2, so that's going to be a line straight down here, but because it's an or equals, that means it's going to be a dashed line. So it's going to be dash, 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 dash. And so you've got your 4 regions right here, 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 that's kind of off the grid, and down here. And so now we have to decide how we're going to shade it in. So let's do this first one, the blue one. So this says shade in everything less than the line. So that means we're going to shade in everything less than the blue line. So that's going to be down here. And then this says shade in everything above -2. So that means we're going to shade in everything above the -2. And you can see that the section that's been shaded in twice is right here. So let's see what that would look like using Desmos. So shading in Desmos is going to look like this. All right, so we're going to start by typing in x plus 2y is less than or equal to 4. And then already the graph is starting to show up, and it's shading in the correct direction. And the next one is y is greater than -2. And you'll notice because it was a greater than, less than or equal, it's a solid line. And this one, because it's just a greater than, there's no or equal, it's a dashed line. And it's hard to kind of see our 4 regions because this tiny little thing is over here. So I'm just going to click and I'm going to move it around and make it so that I can see my regions a little bit better. And if I wanted to, I could zoom out. And, there. Looking pretty good. And I can see that my region that has been shaded in twice is this portion over here on the left. Now, because this problem doesn't have you actually graphing, it just says choose the right one, this is a perfect time to just go straight to using Desmos. We're going to put in these numbers into Desmos and let Desmos do the hard work, and we'll match the picture. So let's bring in Desmos, and we are going to hit the play button. I've already typed in our inequalities, and you notice this one is just a greater than, so it's going to be a dashed line, and sure enough, when I turn it on, it's got a dashed line, and it's shaded above because it's greater than. And then when I turn this one on, it's a solid line because it's less than or equal, and sure enough, it's shaded below because it's less than. And so you'll notice our 4 regions, but none of our regions look the way our answers are offered in my MATLAB. And you'll notice that all of the options of our graph go from -8 to +8 on the x-axis and -8 to +8 on the y-axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the graph settings, and I'm going to change our x-axis from -8 to +8, and I'm going to change the same thing for our y-axis, -8 to 8, and generally I just ignore the step. I don't even worry about the step, and then when I get off, and now my graph looks like some of the options in my MATLAB, and that's going to help me get the right answer. And I can see that the answer is this upper left-hand corner wedge. This wedge in the upper left-hand corner is the part that should be shaded in. So we're going to begin here by graphing these 2 inequalities, but we've got to do that by putting them in y is equal to mx plus b format. Now, I don't want you to worry about that funky bracket thing. Just ignore it. That's not important. And so now we have, because they're both or equals, we know that our lines are going to be solid. Now, this guy, we need to be tricky, get careful with, because it's going to involve dividing by a negative. So let's get going on this. So we're going to first get rid of, let's see, I don't know if I can move both of them. No, stinker. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And first thing I want to do is get rid of that 6x from both sides. So we end up with negative 5y is less than or equal to negative 6x. And then I'm going to divide by 5y, I'm sorry, divide by negative 5. And that's going to make this y, because the negative 5's go away. But because we're dividing by a negative 5, this symbol has to change, greater than or equal. And so the right side ends up being 6/5 x, because when you divide two negatives, you get a positive. So this is the inequality that we are going to graph. So it's going to start at 0 and go up 6 over 5, up 6 over 5. In fact, let's do that. So it starts at 0, then it goes up 6 over 5, and I run out of room to continue that way, so I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to backtrack it to there, and there is my line for the blue one. I'm going to actually make that a little bit thicker to make it easier for us to see. So there is our line, and I'll hold off on the shading part. So now let's take a look at this guy right here, and we're going to zoom in, and we want to get it into that y is equal to mx plus b format. So we're going to subtract 5x. So that's going to give us 6y is less than or equal to negative 5x plus 30. Now we're going to divide both sides by 6. So everything gets divided by 6. So we end up with y is less than or equal to negative 5/6 x plus 5. So we're going to do that in red. So this means we start at 5 and we go down 5 over 6, down 5 over 6. So let's do that. We start at 5 and we're going to go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 6. 1, 2, 3, oh, right here. And then down 5, oh, but I'm going to run out of room, so let's backtrack. So I'm going to go over 6, and then up 5, and there is my line, and there we go. And we've got our nice 4 regions. We've got these 4 areas, and now we have to figure out how we're going to shade it in. So we're going to look at this, and this says y is greater than 6/5 x, and this was the blue. So which side is greater than? Well, the greater is the above. So y is greater than. And so we're going to shade in everything above the blue. There you go, above the blue. And then down here, this is y is less than the red line. So that means we're going to shade down here. And you can see that the actual area that's been shaded in twice is right here, this region to the left. Now let's take a look at what that would look like in Desmos. So I'm going to enlarge this a little bit. Don't let that funky bracket thing scare you. So you're just going to do 6x minus 5y is less than or equal to 0. And because it's an equals sign, it means it's going to be solid. Now it's a little tricky. Now it's less than, so why did we shade above? Well, that's because the y is negative, so you're going to do the opposite of what seems to make sense. All right. And then the next line that we are going to graph is that 5x plus 6y is less than or equal to 30. So that's an inequality. And again, because it's an or equals, it's going to be a solid line. But this time, because the y is positive, it says less than, so we are going to shade below. So that's common sense. And you'll notice this is our region over here. And because it's showing up kind of nice and neat, I don't need to change my range, but if I needed to change my ranges, I would change it right up here. I like tens. So there's my tens, and there you go. And that is the graph for slide 11. And that wraps up this entire video.